Ari, Jalen Milroe might be the most interesting person in this Alabama LSU matchup because not necessarily because of what he's done, but because of the way LSU has handled the last few games. They went into that game against Arkansas knowing Taylon Green was a threat to run, and they shut him down. They go to Texas A&M, assuming Connor Wigman's going to be the starting quarterback. They get Marcel Reed dropped on him in the middle of the game, and it's like they've never seen a mobile quarterback before in their lives. So who shows up from an LSU defensive perspective against Jalen Milroe, who is a much better version of either of those two guys, may determine how this game goes.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to think that LSU will spend every minute of every practice since the A&M game to prepare for a mobile quarterback. And, frankly speaking, I think we'll probably look back at what happened for LSU against Texas A&M as a coaching blunder, because that shouldn't have been as bizarre to them as it turned out to look like it was, right? Like, guy who played all year in place of Wegman, or at least 3 or 4 games during an injury, getting put into the game and giving
you had film on him. You were aware that they can use him and know how to use him. Yeah.
But I also think that Jalen Milroe is interesting in another way, which is, on one hand, when things are going well for Alabama, he's a bona fide star. He's one of the most electric players in college football. People love him. He's in the Heisman discussion. And then they lose a few games, and now he seems to be, in some people's eyes, a liability, in the passing game. And whether or not he is a star is in question, right? And it's who is Jalen Milroe to you? Like, is he somebody that is the X factor in this game that makes LSU shake in their boots, or is he a person that you just hope plays pretty well to keep Alabama in the game? Like, how do you view him?
Well, I think we go back to last year's version of Jalen Milroe, and because the thought was he's evolved as a quarterback, and I think he has somewhat, but he also was a player who would occasionally kind of walk into a sack, and LSU will sack you. Like Braden Swinson, that group, they will sack you. I don't know if their back end is all that great, but they will get after your quarterback and they will do some damage that way. So, when we look at this through, from the perspective of PrizePicks, like if you're not playing PrizePicks, by the way, best daily fantasy game in America, play $5, get $50 instantly if you use that code Staples. So let's look at Jalen Milroe's rushing yardage for this game. So 44.5. Do you think it'll be less than or more than? And remember, in college football, sacks count against your rushing total. So if Jalen Milroe gets sacked a bunch, he will not be more than 44.5 rushing yards. If he doesn't get sacked at all, there's a high likelihood that he's more than 44.5. And it's similar to last year's Alabama LSU game where LSU really struggled to contain him.
And you also have to have some blind trust here that LSU took the week off to prepare for this, right? Because if you go and you look at the way that game against Texas A&M looked, it was like they've never seen a running quarterback ever. And Marcel Reed played the second half only, and he had 62 rushing yards, and he only had 9 attempts. So, if LSU has been shown to be quite susceptible to this, and Alabama's rushing total for the quarterback position, Milroe has had games where he's gone over 100, and he's had games where he hasn't done much at all. And I know that sacks do play a part in that, but it's how much of a part of the game plan do you anticipate his legs will be for Alabama? It's not just, will he, extend some plays and break loose? Are they going to have designed quarterback runs for him in order to get to this mark? Because he's only done it twice in the last, 5 weeks?
I would make it a significant part of my game plan if I'm Alabama because of what I saw against Texas A&M. Because even though they effectively bottled up Taylon Green, that's there. That's there for them to fit the gaps wrong. Or, the other thing you have to worry about with Jalen Milroe is if you do pressure him and you play man behind the pressure, then if he slips the pressure, there's no one to tackle him for about 15 yards. He's just going to get a free 10 to 15 yards before you even have a chance to take it to hit him. So it's a very dangerous proposition for LSU. And I think
you don't want to let Ryan Williams get behind you either.
Exactly. That's the other big problem. But you kind of want to get Milroe on the ground before he has a chance to throw the deep ball to Williams. But if you do that, there is always the possibility that Milroe looks up, he sees last names on the back of jerseys, and off he goes. The other one is Milroe's passing yardage number, 229.5. I don't know that it has to be more than this for Alabama to win the game. I think there's a universe where if there's a little bit of quarterback run and then Alabama can get Justice Haynes and Jam Miller going on the ground, Jalen Milroe does not have to throw for 1 billion yards to win this game.
Yeah, he threw for 239 in 45 attempts against Tennessee. And I think that there might be some similarities there in the sense of
Tennessee's
you're on the
defense is a
road
lot better than LSU's.
in a big game. Yeah. And but like the thing that I thought was interesting about that stat total, Andy, is that if you were watching the Tennessee game live, as I know producer River was, it didn't look like he was having a very effective game. But then at the end of the game, his box score was actually pretty good. So like with what we know about LSU's defense, I think that the more than situation here is the side I would want to be on. And I also like the more than rushing totals because I think that this game is going to be pretty scoring intensive.
Yeah, I do think LSU is gonna force Alabama to keep up with them. Garrett Nussmeier is very good on the other side. So Jalen Milroe, again, he was a star in this game last year. Will he be in Death Valley in the hostile environment that he's going to see this week? We will find out.